CBD, I want to talk about a topic that's always, tonight I want to talk about a path of treating depression that really isn't covered very much and is kind of missed in the scheme of looking at the biochemical causes of things and hitting it with antidepressants and sometimes even antipsychotics. What is the energy component of depression? Let's talk about that. But first, this idea that we have energy in the body, this is obviously, largely sourced from traditional Chinese medicine, which has found its way very much into Western society. And proof of that is the fact that the United States Air Force is actually using acupuncture for pain management. So if you think about that, because many servicemen end up addicted to opiates when they get injured in battle, when in the battlefield, and they need to rely on instant pain management, then they get on these opiates and then they end up on them for a long time. The US Air Force has such confidence in acupuncture that it's employed it as a method in these cases, and it's effective. They use them. These are like, they're not sticking needles into people on the battlefield, but they have these things that are like earrings. So they're hitting the acupuncture points in the ears. They might wear like 5 or 6 of these to deal with pain, and it works. Otherwise, the Air Force wouldn't be using them. So as a starting point, energy is real, this energy that's discussed in Chinese medicine, the idea that we have energy flowing through us. How is that impacted when we're talking about mental illness? That's what we're going to get to. I remember having severe insomnia. I've dealt with insomnia at different phases in my life. Going back over 20 years, I remember I'd sit before going to bed, and because I couldn't sleep, and if I just allowed myself to relax, and it was such a revelation to me at that time, I can give myself some space, just a few minutes at least, to sit and relax and unwind. And lo and behold, I'd feel like an energy current coming down from the top of my head. And I'd feel better, and lo and behold, I would sleep that night after so many nights of having a lot of difficulty sleeping. So that to me was a key indicator that there is something to this idea of meditation. And I wasn't even meditating properly. I was just sitting there and allowing my body to ease some of its tension. And I think the effect I saw was related to energy channels. I interviewed Dr. Jingduan Yang. Now, if you want to talk to someone who straddles the space between traditional Chinese medicine, talking about things like energy channels and mental health, this is a man to speak to. He's a 5th generation traditional Chinese medicine doctor practicing here in New York. He's also a psychiatrist, a neurologist. He's been a neurologist in the past, trained in China, and he's an integrative medicine doctor. So he's board certified in putting all these different things together. I wanted to speak to him because I heard him say a really important but missed aspect to treating depression is the energy aspect. And nothing looks at that quite the way that traditional Chinese medicine does. So I brought him onto my show. I talked to him about this subject. What did he have to say? First off, he started talking about the different types of energy in the body, because a lot of us have this very superficial idea about when we talk about energy, it's qi energy that when they talk about qigong exercise or tai chi, this energy that's being moved around. And that's basically our only understanding of it. But he started explaining to me about different types of energy in the body. Like the liver has energy. Depending on where the energy comes from, there's different energies, like the heart energy, lung energy. And this is where it starts to get into depression, because when we're talking about these different difficult emotions in traditional Chinese medicine are associated with different organs of the body, as Dr. Yang explained to me. And of course, when we're talking about organs in TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, we're not talking about exactly the same thing that we're talking about. The heart in traditional Chinese medicine isn't the same heart we talk about in Western medicine, or the lungs or the spleen or things like that. It's much more involved than I really understand and what I'm going to try to go into. But one thing that factors heavily in traditional Chinese medicine and depression is the spleen. Interestingly, we know that we're learning so much in Western medicine about the connection between gut health and mental health, and the way the immune system, most of the immune system is in the gut. And interestingly, the spleen, which is identified as connected in traditional Chinese medicine to these kinds of emotions like low self-esteem, having negative thoughts, having a negative impression of yourself, part and parcel often of depression. These are emotions associated with the blockage of the spleen energy. So knowing this, how do we deal with this kind of problem? What is the solution? How do you deal with freeing up this kind of energy? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is meditation. This is what Dr. Young talked about as well. This is what he touched on, because meditation, just from a Western medicine standpoint, they've seen through studies that it reduces the stress hormone cortisol in the body, which also factors heavily into stress, into depression. If you're reducing cortisol, you're going to increase your ability to sleep well. And that's going to help a lot of processes like the clearance of all the garbage in your head when you go to sleep, because you have these special lymphatic channels in your brain, the lymphatic system, which is clearing. It's like the trash disposal system of your brain. All this stuff is getting cleared out while you're sleeping. The more sleep, the deeper sleep you get, the more this is going to happen, and the better for your brain health, the better for your mental health. So that's one. Another thing you talked about, when we're talking about this idea of depression, what triggers an energy block? And important, really interesting thing that Dr. Young said to me, because everything comes back to our social relationships, how we engage with other people, how we connect with other people. Where else, if anywhere, does energy flow in our lives than through our connections with other people? And he said, if you want to hurt someone physically, you punch them. If you want to hurt someone chemically, you give them poison. If you want to hurt them energetically, you just need to say something to hurt their feelings, to insult them. And it's going to probably, very likely, in many cases, cause an energy block. What's the reverse of that? I said, well, if that's going to cause an energy block, does that mean that if you can relieve energy blocks, that's going to result in better relationships in your life and better connections to people? That, again, is where something like meditation can come in. The other side, when we're talking about meditation, this comes back from, where do we get meditation from? It's these ancient spiritual practices like Buddhist practices, Taoist practices, where people would go off into mountains and they'd meditate to raise their consciousness and gain enlightenment and things like that. And these practices are based on universal principles, on virtues like truthfulness, compassion, forbearance. And these traditional practices, they foster optimism, they foster a positive outlook. And if you're going out into society with a positive outlook that you're getting from these kinds of ancient understandings, then that can't but help your interactions with other people and foster that kind of positive energy flow. So that's a few dimensions of what, beyond the standard SSRI treatment, that I think is largely being questioned these days, the idea that serotonin, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors are going to resolve all that is depression. We've seen the evidence that these largely do not work for many people. So I wanted to give you a different idea, something a little different, outside the box, very ancient idea of what could be done to relieve something like depression. If you found any value in what I'm saying, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments. If you found it not that much value, but you have some suggestions, please leave those in the comments as well. And I've got my link to my new YouTube channel where I'm putting other health stuff there too. So check me out on there. And I'm also email cvitalsigns@gmail.com. Great to be with you. Thank you for watching. I'm Brendon, Fallon, health journalist on NTD and Epoch TV. Thank you for being here. Good to be with you.